Let me introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lyons Group. To my right, Paul, Hammy the Rockberry. Aspen, the Ninja Gruan, is missing today. She's got a flat tire up in Durango. 4 in the last couple of years, but we'll get to that later. And the boss, Shannon Martinez. My name is Ben. Do your offers hang low? Do they wobble to and fro? Can you tie them in a knot? Hey, you remember?
We've got a new name for you. Take 10. Take 10 Lyons.
Hey, you remember that song? Did you used to sing that song in elementary?
Course.
Yeah. I think it was Arms. Did you remember singing that?
It's funny. It was Arms. No, it was Ears.
Ears.
We had somebody try to do that marching in the Marine Corps. And I remember everybody just stopped. Like, that is not what we're going to be doing.
It's not what we had in mind today.
Hard chargers, do your ears hang low? No.
Yeah. Do they wobble to and fro? Can you tie them in a knot? Can you tie them in a bow? I digress. But today we're going to be talking about lowball offers. And if they do go low, can you tie them in a knot? Can you tie them in a bow? Do they really help you?
They're not a gift.
They're not. Yeah, they are not a gift. Shannon, it's an interesting time in the market right now. We have a lot of sellers, kind of a disconnect. There's a lot of sellers that are still feeling like it's a true seller's market. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a seller's market. I'm just saying that there's a lot of sellers out there that have expectations that are different than the reality of the market we're in. And we have buyers that are like, ooh, I can get a deal right now because things are starting to slow down a bit. But there is a disconnect. There's that area in between, the space in between. And that's where the trouble lies. Lowball offers. We're starting to see them. What do you think? Are they effective? And can they help you as a buyer? Shed some thoughts on how you think a lowball offer would help as a buyer.
I'm not sure it's very helpful, honestly. I think that in some markets it can be. Maybe when our market had crashed, 10 or more years ago, and houses had been on the market, maybe you had something on the market for a year, and then they were just happy to see something. But in our market right now, we're really looking at, instead of having multiple offers right out the gate, we're looking at more having a 3-month, 4-month wait on the market. I think to most sellers, that's not worth just eating into all their equity unless they're seriously desperate. I think there's a lot of that. So I think that in times they can be helpful. I don't think in this market it's necessarily helpful. I think sellers still have a bit of an advantage, and I don't think that they are that terribly desperate. I think the downfall to doing that, and this isn't every case. I mean, if you're talking about a foreclosure and it's in really bad repair and it really needs a lot and you're being really thoughtful about your offer and you know that that's what it's worth, that's one thing. But looking at a home, maybe it hit the market a week ago and you want to come in and offer $50,000 less off of it. Chances are the seller's not going to even entertain that, first of all. But also, even if they did and they responded and they came right back where they're at or close to it, even if you came to an agreement, you've almost already set the tone for how you're going to behave with them. And a lot of times those sellers feel like, they're just out for anything they want. So then you come along a few weeks later with your objections to your home inspection and they have the same bad taste in their mouth that they're just coming after everything. They're just going to throw everything they can out there. I think that we're better off when we negotiate in good faith, when we say, I really think this is what this property's worth. Or maybe if you have a broker that can call ahead and say, hey, look, I know it's newer and I know this is lower than what the seller wants. My buyers have really thought a lot about this. This is where it makes sense to them. That softens it a little bit. But I think sometimes people get these expectations after watching these online, they watch these shows, they watch all these home shows and they think, well, they're asking $600,000. I'm going to go in at $320 and I'll probably get it at $400,000. You're not. You're just not. That's not the reality of the market. But what you're doing is you're putting up a brick wall right in front of their face. Hey, I am not one you can negotiate with. I'm unreasonable is what you're telling them. That's how I feel. That's what I see most of the time.
So ultimately you think because of that brick wall that people put up by coming in so low that it doesn't motivate the seller to move the needle at all.
No.
That's what you're saying. And a lot of it is about the presentation of the offer.
Exactly.
If there's some if there's some reason, some causality to this is why we're at this price point. Let's say there's some serious structural issues or some.
Then at least if the seller doesn't go for it, the seller may understand the point and say, well, I get your point, but we just can't do that. But say the house does sit there for 3 or 4 months, and the seller might start saying, you know what? We've had a couple of lower offers and we've really thought about it. And now these things make sense. And then now at least the door's open to them coming back. If you've already offended them, chances are they're not going to circle back around in a couple of months and say, are your buyers still interested in that? Because we've seen that before. Mm-hmm. We've seen that where you can't come to terms, but maybe after a little while, you get that phone call and say, hey, are your buyers still out there and looking? Because, my sellers are getting closer to that point now.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that if they just think you're unreasonable.
Yeah. Completely unreasonable. Yeah. Paul, what are your thoughts? Can lowball offers hurt you as a buyer? Why or why not?
Well, I hate lowball offers. And when I deal with sellers, I always present all offers the same way. But when you present an offer and you get either swearing, cussing, or laughing back at you, you know that the buyer is not helped at all. And probably, I've had this conversation. If they come back with another one, would you entertain that offer? And if it's insulting enough, they usually say no. Just tell them thanks, but no thanks. Now there are opportunities for like foreclosures, short sales, those type of things where I think lowball offers could be appropriate. But I don't think. When you think about a lowball offer, you're taking the equity away from the seller who has an asset they're going to do something else with, all of this stuff. Why would they give away all of their equity to you because you really want it?
Exactly.
And then you get a lowball offer majority of the time. Then you get like you were saying, you get objections later on. You're like, I already gave you everything
I had to give.
Yeah.
Now,
That's
why
right.
do you think you can come back and ask for more? But if they do it nuanced, like you were saying, and say, we've already looked at everything. This is where we think it should be priced based on what it's worth, what needs to be done, and this will be our offer. We're going to be very easy coming from here on out. Mm-hmm. We're kind of saying we're going to accept it at this price as is, Then a lowball offer could help, but majority of the time, no.
But I agree with you, Paul. A lot of it is the presentation.
Yeah.
It really is. If we walk in and I say, well, I've got an offer, but you're not going to want to see it. Exactly. I've got an offer, but these people are ridiculous. I'm still going to come in and say, hey, good news is we have an offer. It's not where we want to be, but it's a starting place. Let's see what we can do with it. And then I always try to tell people, don't be offended. Somebody's actually interested in your property. If you can't meet them somewhere along here, just come back where you can. You don't need to laugh in their face. You don't need to walk away because sometimes they're just maybe a little bit ignorant to how the process works. They've watched too many programs. And they're coming in doing this thinking they're going to get somewhere. They may not even really feel this way. So don't make it personal. Make it a business decision. You don't have to meet them there. Just come back where you're at and take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you see the lowball offers, it's usually an untrained either buyer or realtor that's working with them.
Exactly.
Because what happens in a lowball, or the untrained people will say, I've got to put every line that I can fill in needs to be in my client's favor.
Right.
And then that really becomes, it's just like a bunch of jabs at the seller.